The story begins with a brief discussion about dragons. Ever since humans started breeding them around 100 years ago, dragons have become an essential part of everyday life. There were 3 types of dragon based on their size: small, medium, and large. Despite their name, small dragons were still twice the size of humans and were mainly used for transportation. Medium and large dragons played a key role in armies, with large dragons being the most important in battle. At the top of the hierarchy were the dragon knights, those who commanded these majestic creatures. In one scene, the protagonist, Cyril, can be seen watching a dragon when a kid excitedly shouts about wanting to become a dragon knight because it is such a well-paid profession. Cyril glances at the dragon, which began making strange noises. He recognises it as Tarask, one of the smaller transport dragons. Instantly, Cyril realises something was wrong and approached the owner. At first, the owner thought Cyril was a customer, but Cyril quickly explained that he wasn't. Instead, he pointed out that the dragon's right hind leg was injured, which shocked the owner. Surprised, the owner tried to make the dragon walk, worried about his business. However, Cyril advised him to take better care of the dragon. Curious, the owner asked if Cyril had done this kind of work before, but Cyril didn't respond. Instead, he moved closer to the dragon, reassuring it, and the dragon actually thanked him. At that moment, Cyril realised the dragon was feeling depressed. When Cyril told the owner, he refused to believe it, claiming he had never heard of dragons feeling down. But Cyril, emotional, insisted that even dragons could feel sad, especially when they were mistreated. Cyril had known the dragon language since childhood, which was why he became a dragon knight. While most people train dragons using commands, Cyril could actually communicate with them, asking for favours and guiding them more effectively. His unique talent had earned him a place in the prestigious Dragon Knight Guild, Lindworm. Guilds were ranked based on how many dragons they owned and their achievements, with S rank being the highest. To reach S rank, a guild had to complete 3 top rank quests in a row with cooperation, or 2 if they worked alone. Lindworm was powerful enough to meet these challenges, but their harsh treatment of dragons had made Cyril uncomfortable. It hadn't even been a month since Cyril had joined Lindworm, and he was quickly labelled a troublemaker for rebelling against the way they treated dragons. He had expected to be kicked out, and when it happened, he didn't mind. Cyril preferred being jobless over mistreating dragons. However, he still needed to make a living, so he started working as a freelance dragon knight in a public office. Unfortunately, without a solid reputation, finding clients was a struggle. It was almost impossible for someone like Cyril, who didn't own a dragon and had been fired, to find work easily. Thankfully, the requests at the public office were open to everyone, and you could use rental dragons to complete them. That was a huge plus. Because of this, Cyril managed to find a job taming a newborn dragon. It was a good sign, so he immediately went for the recruitment. When he arrived, the owner, Patrick Forget, was surprised to see him. Not many people were eager to take on such a job, but Cyril was ready. Patrick asked him to get straight to the point and state his demands. Patrick explained that the dragon was a gift for his son. A fellow merchant had told him it was a good idea to raise a dragon alongside your child so they could bond as they grew, and eventually the dragon could even become the child's bodyguard. However, the problem was that the dragon wasn't obedient to any other tamers, so Patrick had posted a job for a dragon knight. This wasn't a typical request, but Cyril wanted to see the dragon first. The dragon's name was Tarask, a small transport dragon that wouldn't grow too large, which made her ideal for the job. Cyril was intrigued, but Patrick warned him to be careful. As soon as Cyril approached the dragon and said hello, she yelled, asking for her sister because she wanted to see her. This was strange, so Cyril calmly asked the dragon to explain everything in detail. When the dragon realised Cyril could understand her, she was shocked, but he reassured her, and she started telling him her story. At this point in the manga, Cyril really stepped up as a hero. The dragon explained that she and her sister had been together since they were in their eggs, but Patrick had only bought one. Now, she missed her sister terribly. She promised Cyril that if he reunited them, she'd do anything that he asked. Cyril asked if that included taking care of the merchant's son, and the dragon agreed, as long as she could live with her sister. This left Cyril in deep thought. He asked Patrick where he had bought the dragon and suggested they check if her sister was still available. The merchant was surprised to learn that the dragon had a sister, but Cyril explained that the dragon would obey as long as she stayed with her sibling. This was even more shocking to Patrick, who couldn't believe Cyril could understand her language. Determined to help, they tracked down the sister dragon, and when the two were reunited, they were incredibly happy. The merchant was amazed at how the dragons were acting, almost like humans. Seeing how joyful they were, Patrick decided to keep them together. Both dragons thanked Cyril for helping them, but he reminded them of their promise to take care of the boy, and they agreed. Patrick was also grateful to Cyril, especially since none of the other tamers that he'd hired had been able to tame the dragon like Cyril did. However, Cyril was direct and told him that the peace would only last as long as the dragons stayed together. If they were separated again, they would cause bigger problems as they grew larger. Watching the dragons happily reunite, Cyril had no regrets about being kicked out of that prestigious guild. He was now more determined than ever to continue his dragons first policy. Once again, he was on the lookout for a good, reputable job. And what he found next was a dragon rental job, though it came with the catch that he'd have to cover the expenses himself. Still, Cyril was interested and ready for the challenge. The scene shifts to a large mansion where a girl named Catherine Morinier can be seen busy writing countless letters. She was searching for a reliable dragon knight to deliver her letters quickly and efficiently. And who better for the job than our hero Cyril? Soon enough, Cyril arrived at the mansion, which was as grand and intimidating as expected. Upon entering, a staff member informed him that, although the job was well paying, it was just a letter delivery request, something that might be too difficult for an independent dragon knight like him. Despite the warning, Cyril managed to meet the client. When he met Catherine, she immediately questioned whether someone as young as him could handle the task. Cyril reassured her and asked if it was an important letter that she needed to deliver. She replied that she had made multiple copies of the letter, unsure if delivering just one would be enough. Cyril quickly realised that Catherine belonged to a much wealthier family than his previous client. Curious, he asked what kind of letters she wanted delivered. At first, Catherine was shocked and wondered if he was spying on her. But Cyril calmly explained that knowing the content of the letter would help him gauge its importance. Eventually, she told him it was a love letter, a reply to Baron Bouquet's confession. This revelation surprised Cyril, and probably anyone else hearing it. But Catherine explained that it was difficult to have a romantic relationship with someone from another noble family, so she was taking extra precautions. She then provided him the delivery location, Ribot, and asked how long it would take. After doing some quick calculations, Cyril told her it would only take him 1 day. Catherine was impressed, as others had estimated 3 days for the job. Satisfied, she handed over the letter and asked him to return with a receipt. Only then would she pay him. Cyril accepted, realising that this quest was more high class than he had expected. But he was also thinking about the opportunity to become acquainted with the Baron's family. After making up his mind, Cyril headed to a dragon shop in search of a fast wyvern dragon. Since he didn't have any luggage, he specifically requested a speedy dragon. The shopkeeper showed him the way to the dragons. When Cyril approached, the dragons began talking among themselves, warning each other that a new human had arrived and that this one looked even more clueless than the last. Cyril, understanding their language, laughed and replied that it was harsh to hear. The dragons were shocked to learn he could understand them and asked if he had been raised by dragons. Curious, they asked what he was there for, and Cyril explained that he was looking for a partner to help deliver a letter. When they heard it was a love letter, the dragons got excited, asking if it was from a female to a male. Cyril confirmed, and one dragon eagerly declared that he was the fastest and would love to help with the delivery. Cyril chose him, surprising the shopkeeper as it was a rare choice. The dragon was thrilled, ready to take on the task. As soon as they departed, the dragon eagerly asked Cyril to let her hold the letter. When she caught the scent of a woman's perfume on it, she got even more excited and flew at an incredible speed. This was both surprising and reassuring for Cyril, as it meant they would reach their destination much sooner. In just half a day, they arrived at Baron Bouquet's estate and delivered the letter. While the Baron accepted the letter, he acted strangely towards them, but nevertheless handed Cyril a reply. The dragon, now even more motivated, made the return trip in just half a day as well. When they arrived, Lady Catherine was thrilled with the speed and efficiency of the delivery. Impressed, she asked Cyril for his name, saying she'd remember it and call on him again in the future. This was a huge win for Cyril. Afterward, he went to the dragon market with plans to buy his own reliable dragon, which would allow him to take on tougher jobs. Upon arriving, he noticed a dragon being sold at an unusually low price. He could afford it, even with his earning from smaller jobs, but he was suspicious as to why the dragon was so cheap. Curious, he asked the merchant about it. At first, the merchant tried to brush it off, saying the dragon was average for her family. But with some more probing, Cyril discovered the truth. The dragon lacked motivation to work, only doing tasks when she felt like it. Despite this, Cyril was intrigued and asked to check her out. The dragon was from the Belarus family, known for their broad backs and use in transportation. They weren't particularly fast, but they were reliable and herbivores, meaning feeding them was easier. When Cyril approached the dragon, he tried to introduce himself, but she dismissed him, saying there was no point in talking to humans. Unfazed, Cyril asked her not to act that way, which surprised the dragon, as she wasn't used to anyone actually speaking to her. Cyril asked her what her problem was, and she replied that she just wanted to sleep, 12 hours a day to be exact. This was unusual, as most dragons only needed about 2 hours of sleep. Despite this, Cyril believed in her and asked if she would work for him if he allowed her to have 12 hours of rest each day. Shocked by the offer, the dragon agreed. When Cyril bought the dragon, the shopkeeper was stunned. After the purchase, Cyril decided to name the dragon and suggested the name Louise, but the dragon wasn't fond of it and declined. Soon after, they arrived home and the dragon seemed to like it, especially because it was spacious. Cyril told her to rest, since she was probably tired, and the dragon, feeling more comfortable, opened up to him. She revealed a secret. Stepping forward, she let out a powerful shriek, loud enough to break trees and shake the surroundings. Cyril was shocked but impressed by her hidden ability, thinking they might be able to use it in the future. The dragon then admitted that using this ability exhausted her, but assured him that she would do it if he ever needed it. Cyril understood her limitations and was happy with her response, feeling like they had already formed a solid bond. The next day, with Louise by his side, Cyril went looking for more transportation-related jobs. When he arrived, he was greeted by the receptionist, Rose, who seemed especially happy to see him. She mentioned she had been waiting for him, which surprised Cyril. Curious, he asked why, and Rose explained that there was a special request for him. Even more surprised, Lady Catherine had spoken highly of him, which caught Cyril off guard. According to Rose, Lady Catherine wasn't easily impressed, and Cyril was one of the lucky few to have earned her praise. This made Cyril feel proud, as his hard work was finally paying off. Rose then revealed the reason behind the special request, his growing reputation for reliability and trustworthiness. Intrigued, Cyril asked what kind of job it was. Rose explained that it involved tracking someone, which was unusual for a Dragon Knight. Normally, this kind of task wouldn't be given to him, but given the circumstances, it was entrusted only to someone credible. Then Rose dropped a bombshell. The princess was missing, and Cyril's job was to find her. The news shocked Cyril. Not only was the princess missing, but they were asking him to take on the responsibility of finding her. Naturally, he had a lot of questions and tried to get more information from Rose, but she was tight-lipped, saying she wasn't allowed to disclose any more details. Persistent, Cyril asked if the missing princess was from this country. After some hesitation, Rose finally confirmed that the princess's procession had disappeared near Himalaya in the northern mountains. This had happened just the previous night, so the incident was still fresh and hardly anyone knew about it yet. The client's request was to handle the situation discreetly and avoid causing any panic. After explaining the terms, Rose asked if Cyril would accept the mission. He took some time to think it over, but eventually agreed. As he left the office, he felt a mixture of worry and doubt. Louise noticed the tension on his face and asked what was wrong. Cyril explained the situation, sharing his concerns about being trusted with such a high-stake mission. Though flattered, he wasn't sure he could handle it. Louise, sensing his anxiety, reassured him. She acknowledged the weight of the responsibility, but reminded him that overthinking wouldn't change anything. It was time to take action. Encouraged by her words, Cyril and Louise set off for the mountains without delay. Once they arrived at the mountain, Cyril pulled out a letter from the princess that he had retrieved from the town hall and asked Louise to use her sense of smell to track the princess. Although Louise wasn't an expert at tracking, she was still better than a human at detecting scents. After a quick sniff, she identified a strong, pungent smell. Cyril was impressed by how quickly she picked up on it and told her to follow the scent. With Louise leading the way, they navigated the mountains smoothly. Her speed and precision impressed Cyril even more. Praising her, he asked what reward she wanted for doing such a great job. Louise, feeling cheeky, requested a straw bedding as a reward. Cyril, already pleased with her performance, quickly agreed, which made Louise even happier and more motivated. Following the scent, Louise led them straight to the top of the mountain, where they finally sensed the presence of the princess. Below the mountain, Cyril spotted a broken carriage and a dead horse. He immediately recognized it and thought it must belong to the princess. As he approached the wreckage, he found no survivors, which made him anxious about the princess's safety. When he tried to get closer to the carriage, he noticed there was a magical barrier in place. Cyril quickly asked Louise if she could break it using her voice, and amazingly, she did. Inside the carriage, they found the unconscious princess. Thanks to the barrier, she hadn't been severely injured. Cyril gently tried to wake her, and when she opened her eyes, she was initially frightened, asking who he was. He calmed her down, explaining that he was there to save her. Hearing this, the princess relaxed and began to tell Cyril what had happened. He was impressed by how composed she was, even in such a dangerous situation. Cyril suggested that they got her to a doctor, but the princess was concerned about the soldiers who had been with her. Unfortunately, none of them had survived. Cyril introduced her to Louise and asked if they could give her a ride, which the princess found uncomfortable at first. Realizing that Cyril was a dragon knight, she asked him which guild he was from. She was surprised when he told her that he didn't belong to any. What impressed her even more was the fact that his dragon clearly loved him, a rare trait among dragon knights, as it showed they were highly capable. Soon they made it back safely, and the receptionist, Rose, was shocked to see them return. The princess, grateful for Cyril's help, thanked him and asked how she could repay him. Cyril humbly refused any reward, saying he had already been paid. Still, the princess insisted and gave him a handkerchief bearing her family's emblem. She also told him he could call on her services any time in the future. Although Cyril's duty was complete, it seemed this encounter might lead to something more between them. Stay tuned to see what happens next. That's all for this story. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to ring the bell so you don't miss out on more content like this. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.